Good morning! Nice of you guys to drop by!
Broadcasting from the one and only Celebratus archives on the planet of Abroa Sky, welcome to Abroa Skywalkers, the one and only Star Wars Book Club podcast on which the conversational rabbit holes are as deep as the Great Pit of Carcoon, but at least they always lead to more Star Wars. But before you get too lost in the stacks, here are your head librarians, Ben and Cole. Listen up, library patrons, and welcome back to Abroa Skywalkers. I am one of your librarians, Ben, and I am joined by my fellow librarian, Cole.
Hello, hello, hello.
Finally, through the fault of nobody, we've had delays and thumb accidents and all sorts of problems, but we're back. I mean, maybe I'm speaking too soon. It is very early in the episode. There are plenty of things that could go wrong and keep us from getting this episode out this week. But we apologize for delays. Like I said, nobody's fault. Stuff just happens. But yeah, how you been, Cole? Well, I guess it hasn't been that long. We just talked last week.
Yeah, we did talk last week on Skyhoppers, but we didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're broken and do 2 podcasts with each other. But how have things been in the world of Texas? You're our correspondent down in Texas.
Aside from the stuff that kept me from recording, it's been fine, I guess. But that stuff's been frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And then you told me we checked in a little bit about this, I think, on Skyhoppers, but I want to check in here too. You said you smashed your thumb.
Yep, I did. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be any worse for it. It's still a little bit tender.
Okay.
In places, but I'm not having any flexibility issues, and it doesn't even look like my thumbnail's got any issues, thankfully. So
we don't have one of those weird little blood blisters we talked about last week.
Doesn't seem like it, but I mean, it could always show up later because it could be deep or something. But
true. See, that's what happens to me. Once the worst one I ever had was I was dating someone in middle school, as much as you can date someone in middle school. Mm-hmm. And every morning she would jokingly slam her locker. Mm-hmm. She would slam it really hard. And one day I'm like, it's going to be funny. I'm going to stop her from slamming the locker.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, I'm in a lot of pain. And I still think my thumbnail today, or not my thumbnail, my ring finger on my right hand, I still think that nail is flatter than the other one. So I think I've got some kind of permanent deformity, but that was bad. I had that for probably 3 months. It felt like I had that thing. Anyway, what is this, a blood blister podcast? No. This is Abroa Skywalkers. Only. I don't like that. I mean, I kind of hope that'd be a one-time thing, not occasionally. But this is a Star Wars podcast where we read Star Wars books and talk about Star Wars things. Mm-hmm. It's been a couple weeks. I know you've been in a bit of a Stargate kind of mood recently. Have you finished that?
I'm not finished. I'm on the final season of Stargate Universe, so that is coming to a close. I'm 12 episodes from the end or something.
So 2 days.
Depending on how late I get in the evenings. Yeah, I watched 3 or 4 episodes today. So
okay. And are those hour-long or 45-minute episodes?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did have something Star Wars related to Stargate. I posted it in the Discord. I don't know if you saw it. I had a realization, and I felt so stupid.
Oh, I saw this, but I think I was busy, so I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay, so in Jedi Fallen Order, Master. Now his name's escaping me.
Eno Cordova.
Eno Cordova. Yeah, he is both the likeness and the voice of Tony Amendola, who plays a major supporting character in SG-1, Braytak. And I did not realize it until someone posted on Reddit about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I never saw this. It's kind of amazing.
And now you played Fallen Order, right?
I played, yeah, totally. Yeah. It was before I started my Stargate binge.
Of course, it makes sense. Especially because it's weird because I've not read I have the Fallen Order comic. I've not gotten around to reading it yet. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think the characters in Fallen Order are all fantastic, except Cordova, because he strikes me as such like a, not that I think he's bad, but being kind of existing only in like memories and, you know, recordings.
Yeah, he's just like holograms and he's so you don't really get like a full-fledged version of him.
No, he strikes me as less real, so I don't tend to think about him as much. But yeah, I mean, I looked this guy up and that's Cordova.
Yeah, it totally is. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just straight up him. And I think there's even like, I don't know if it's just a mock-up or if it's a real image of him like in the costume and everything of the actor.
Oh. It's always hard to say. You know, I hate the people on the internet are so dang talented.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to tell what's real and what's not. And I understand that has far-reaching real-life implications that are somewhat problematic at times. But in this case, it's just frustrating for me as a nerd.
Well, I think it may be a real image because it's actually the official image on Wikipedia.
Oh.
So maybe
I always get... I don't know. I wonder sometimes about where Wikipedia sources their images. There is a, like, for example, there's a particularly, oh shoot, I just lost our random article for the week. Let me open a new tab. There's an article that has been the subject of not recent controversy, but prior controversy from way back when. And I'm not going to say the name of the article because I'm not going to bring it back up. But there's an image for the article that is sourced from, where is it? I was just looking at it the other day. Star Wars Art Visions, which is an Abrams book that came out in 2010. And it doesn't look like... It looks like it's just art. Right? The regular edition summary says, Star Wars Visions collects a wealth of art, handpicked by George Lucas, produced by a variety of artists, illustrators, designers, and cartoonists, working across all genres and styles to celebrate their favorite characters, themes, worlds, and moments from the Star Wars universe. So this is from 2010, and right here I've got a drawing from this book that is a very clearly like first 3 seasons of Clone Wars Ahsoka Tano, cartoon looking and everything, fighting a photorealistic Darth Vader and Stormtrooper. And it's like, obviously that's long before Twilight of the Apprentice. That's just a thing, right? That's not canonical.
Right.
So I've always wondered, like, okay, for this article that I'm talking about, this image comes from Star Wars Visions. Is it that much different than fan art? You know, because it's like, I know Wikipedia doesn't like I don't think Wikipedia likes to use fan art as any sort of like official representation of something. But I guess I don't know. I've not looked that much into it. It just struck me as a little odd.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I guess that I'm assuming though that if Cordova, I'm assuming that you're right, that it is an official thing because it's like
it might just be like concept art, but they use like actual like, you know, photo images of the guy to make it. You know, I'm sure they do that kind of stuff all the time. Like in the concept art books, they do that kind of stuff a lot.
Well, it's funny because you can see, I can't remember who it is, but on some of the concept art for Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, people have pointed out that there's I don't know if she's an MMA fighter or if she is like a wrestler or what. Some like famous strong woman, like that is not Gina Carano, somebody else that like the concept artist clearly had in mind when they were drawing Cara Dune. And of course, I'm not making any sort of comment on the actual casting, but it's just funny that, I guess in the case of Fallen Order, if they know who's going to be playing the characters, why not draw them in the concept art, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think it's really great cast. And like now I want to go back through and like listen to some of the like major dialogue from him, and knowing that it's him, like, oh, that's great. Because even the whole like his whole like archaeology angle feels like Stargate stuff in a way.
Oh, really?
Not his character. He's in Stargate. He's more of like a warrior guy. But the whole archaeology thing, that's a big part of Stargate's mythology. So it all feels like it's kind of like maybe somebody on the team was a fan. It's like, hey, can we get this guy?
Is Stargate like, I mean, is it the case of like Stargates are like ancient technology or something? That's just my guess.
Yeah. The basic mythos behind Stargate is essentially like the ancient alien stuff. Like ancient aliens built the pyramids and the Stargates and all that stuff's connected.
Okay. Then humans just kind of find them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, speaking of Fallen Order, I was earlier today. It's been a very, very lazy Sunday. Earlier today I was rewatching the speed run from AGDQ just a couple months ago, Fallen Order. That game's kind of broken, by the way. Not as bad as some games people might have seen, but there are some pretty wild things that happen. And I was just reflecting on that game, and I'm like, A, I need to replay it again, and B, these characters are all fantastic.
Yeah.
That whole game, I don't want to sound like I didn't have faith in it, but that game I think is better than it had any right to be, being just another story of, oh, this is a Jedi that survived Order 66, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
We've seen that story multiple times, and somehow they made it unique. They made it compelling, and I think that, going back to the actors, I think that had a lot to do with it. Everybody was great in their role.
Yeah, totally. And I really can't wait to see what they do with it in the future.
I know. And see, it's funny because like I went into Fallen Order thinking, okay, Cal's gonna die at the end, right? Especially when Vader shows up at the very end. I'm like, okay. I'm like,
he's gonna
that's
make some sacrifice to make sure the people make it out, and that'll be the end for him. But nope.
No. And then not only that, he destroyed. I mean, spoilers for Fallen Order. I'll skip ahead a little bit, just to hit, like fast forward 30 seconds on your podcast player. I'm going to talk to make sure people have a chance to do that. Oh, okay. And at the very end, whenever Cal just destroys the holocron.
Trust only in the Force.
To me, it strikes me as a kind of a Last Jedi scenario where it's just like people are like, well, there's nowhere to go from the Last Jedi. I'm like, okay, did we watch the first movie? Like, there's nowhere like explicitly, no like not a lot of explicit threads for them to follow, but that just means you can do basically anything with these characters. You're not particularly limited by the trappings of the first one. So I'm curious to see what happens there. I am a little bit afraid though, because obviously the Jedi Order doesn't get restarted for another 15 years or something, way longer than that.
Yeah, it's a good ways.
Like 20 years or something. Yeah, a while. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know. Don't want to get too deep in speculating about Fallen Order 2. I'd love to be able to play as Marin, though.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty likely.
Especially, I mean, you know me. I'm not one saying the creator should bend to the fans, because fans are idiots. I'm sorry, everyone, but we know it. We are. We don't know what's best. We never have, and we never will. But I think this might be a time where they should bend to the fans. My guess is that she was more of a crowd pleaser than they might have anticipated, and plus, it's a game about Cal, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to play as somebody else. But since they're developing these characters, this story, this mythology, why not?
Yeah,
it becomes a bigger thing.
I think ideal situation would be like maybe it's you go back and forth between them or something.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, is the story is that she's the last Night Sister, right?
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe there might have been other Night Sisters that survived the Night Sister Order 66. But I obviously am curious about like Seer and Cal and where they go. But we kind of know where the track, the arc that the Jedi Order makes from this point onwards, right? On some level, maybe not specifically. The Night Sisters haven't, understandably, haven't shown up anywhere in like extra storytelling from the OT or beyond. So I'm curious to see how her heritage carries on, because I've got mixed feelings about the Night Sisters in canon. But there is a large part of me that likes them better than the Night Sisters in Legends. I just wish that we could have like the Witches of Dathomir from Legends and the Night Sisters from canon. I think that's my ideal, because I don't know. I never thought Gethzarian was that cool. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Not really a standout villain.
No. But I will not tolerate bad-mouthing the courtship of Princess Leia on this podcast.
And Warlord Zinj is a treasure, so.
He's a treasure, all right. Well, that's a fun little, bringing it back to your Stargate connection. That's a fun little connection that you picked up on. I feel like something like that happened to me recently too, but I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. It might have just been finding out that D. Bradley Baker was born in Bloomington, where I currently am from and reside. But I mean, obviously he didn't stay here. But in terms of Star Wars for me, I actually last night, every once in a while, I'll have like a 24-hour span where the only thing I want to do is read Star Wars comics. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I've been. If I've not been playing, it's like for the last day, if I haven't been playing City Skylines, I have been reading a Star Wars comic. And not the title, a Star Wars comic, which is a webcomic that you all should read, because Jim and Alex did fantastic work on that comic. But like the specific Star Wars comic that I started reading last night and finished up earlier today was, I believe it's called Jedi Volume 1, The Dark Side. And I think it ties in. I think we have some overlap here. Even if you've never heard of it, I think we have some overlap, because are you familiar with Xanatos? Do you know that name? Do you know who that is?
I know who Xanatos is.
Yes. Okay. Well, I periodically go on thrift books, which sponsor us maybe. I periodically go on thrift books and I will just search Star Wars and then check like the graphic comic / graphic novel options in the filters, just to see what they've got. And this is one, I'm going to confirm that that's the title real quick. But regardless of what the title was, that was one that I was not really I'd never heard of. I didn't know this was a series. I didn't know anything. And actually, yeah, it is called Star Wars Jedi : Star Wars : Jedi : The Dark Side. Set in 53 BBY, and it's just a 5-issue miniseries, I guess. 21 years before The Phantom Menace. And I saw it on thrift books, and I'm like, okay, this is super cheap. Why would I not pick it up? Because I kind of I go on thrift books with like, okay, I want to spend like $30. How far can I stretch my $30? Mm-hmm. And I'd had it for a while and decided, okay, this is what I want to read. And I started, and I'm like, oh, Xanatos, I know who that is, but I've not read anything else with Xanatos in it. I just know who he is. And it looks like he was actually pulled from the Jedi Apprentice series. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, seeing if it was which one came first.
Yeah, it was definitely the Jedi Apprentice series. I don't know exactly what the timeline is. It looks like Jedi Apprentice started in 99, and then this is from 2011. That's way later than I thought it was. Oh my gosh. For some reason, this had the vibe of like an early 2000s Dark Horse comic. I did not realize it was from, well, I guess 10 years ago at this point, but didn't feel that late. Anyway, basically it's a story, Qui-Gon and Xanatos, and how Qui-Gon loses Xanatos. And I won't go too much into the details of the story. But I thought it was interesting in that not only does it pull from the Jedi Apprentice series that you have far more experience in than I do, but also it pulls from Knights of the Old Republic too, oddly enough, in that it takes place on Telos 4, and they're like talking about the restoration efforts and all this stuff that's been going on for thousands of years, I guess. But anyway, that was one that I picked up, thought was pretty cool. That's what I've been into over the last little bit. What was the other? Oh, I also read Empire Volume 1, which I have read before, but it's hard not to kind of feel obsessed with it because it's the first appearance of Grand Moff Tracta. Are you familiar with who that is? I don't know if he's a Grand Moff.
I'm not sure. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know where.
I bet you know who he is if you go to the wiki. Trachta. He's the guy he's got like glowing red robot eyes and like a weird, like kind of neo-Nazi haircut.
In a Vader style mask and stuff.
Yeah, like a mask and like some tubes coming off of him. I don't know why he's a character that I had seen a million times before. Just happened to pick up Empire Volume 1, like the first trade paperback of that comic, and there he is. But yeah, I also have picked the Menace Revealed Dark Horse Omnibus off my shelf, but haven't had a chance to dig into that one yet. But I think I've read it before, but it's definitely been a long time.
Oh man, he appears he's mentioned in that Skywalkers with this weird spelling story. SKYE Walkers.
Oh, we've talked about this, haven't we?
Yeah.
I still don't know what to make of it. Yeah, I still don't know what to make of that. And it looks like he appears in Darth Vader in the Ghost Prison. Which is
his like first chronological appearance.
Yeah. And then Dark Times Fire Carrier #1. Dark Times is another comic series I've been meaning to get into. I've got volumes 1 and 2 and 5, I think, which is kind of annoying, but I kind of, it's these Dark Horse trade paperbacks are getting kind of expensive. Some of them already are. It's rough out there for a collector because most like trade paperbacks you can find pretty cheap. Trade paperbacks of novels you can find pretty cheap. And a lot of comics will run you anywhere between $15 and $30, kind of in the mid range there. Mm-hmm. But like I was just on, and obviously eBay is going to be cheaper than thrift books a lot of the time. But I was just going through doing my scan on thrift books here a minute ago, and I saw that the Boba Fett Dark Horse Omnibus was like $162.
Whew, man.
And the Tales of the Jedi omnibuses are also very expensive. Mm-hmm. Now the good news is if you just want to read them, you can find them digitally, of course. I think, I don't know, but like if you just want to buy individual issues, you can get the whole series for like $20 or less, or like a whole arc. Mm-hmm. So if you're just looking to read it and maybe pass it on to somebody else, or just store that. I mean, I have my Tales of the Jedi comics are mostly just floppies because the trade paperbacks are just too expensive. But Star Wars comics, I mean, I love them. There are a bunch that I want to talk about on the podcast eventually, but it's weird to be so out of your element in something Star Wars related. Mm-hmm. And comics, I feel like, are that for me. And that's just that it's like, yeah, I know a lot of the big ones, but like this Jedi The Dark Side miniseries, I had no idea that existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me neither.
But it's good. I recommend it. And I will say, as my last little bit here on comics, Legends, obviously, that's where our heart and soul is. I think there is one thing that canon has consistently for me does better than Legends, and that is the portrayal of Darth Vader in comics. I was reading Empire Volume 1 today, and I'm sure there are good Vader comics out there, but Vader is featured pretty heavily in that comic, and I could not help but compare him to any of the canon Vader runs, and
not favorably.
It's just not favorably. Yeah, technically, not that Vader is bad, but I mean, come on. These new Vader runs have just been absolutely mind-blowing, you know? So it's definitely, it's hard to not compare the two. They should have just had Steve Perry write Darth Vader everywhere, all throughout Legends.
It turns out he's the one that has the best handle on him somehow.
Well, you know, Steve Perry's not a bad author. He just has some less than good traits, I think. Some things that he does that are not my favorite, but are of the time frequently and just feel more dated than anything. But yeah, his Vader is just far and away, just feels like leaps and bounds better than most other people's. Did Tim Zahn ever write Vader?
He probably has a couple of minor appearances in like Allegiance and Choices of One, but beyond that, probably not.
Yeah, I would assume you're right.
Well, and then throwing Alliances, obviously.
Oh, right. So yeah, he has.
And that one's like okay.
Yeah, that one. People were kind of weird on Treason, and I think we've talked about this somewhere before. I got mixed. I saw mixed reviews for Treason, but I definitely think Alliances was the weakest of those three. Not a bad book by any means, but definitely the weakest of that canon Thrawn trilogy. And then stacked up against, Chaos Rising. Whew,
yeah,
no chance.
Doesn't really stand up.
No, just no chance at all. Treason, I just felt like the story to me was more interesting. Alliances was sometimes I'm sure there's plenty of stuff on this podcast that contradicts what I'm about to say. But I frequently think that I prefer it when the OT and like the PT kind of stay in their separate lanes. I love both of them for different reasons, but I didn't love the kind of crossover element of Alliances. Just kind of threw me off a little bit. Not a bad thing, just not necessarily my favorite. But yeah, I don't know. You got anything else? Because if not, I've got a spicy article for you this week.
I just wanted to mention that I did pick up the Epic Collection of Dark Empire, so that is now in my possession.
Oh boy,
I haven't touched it really yet, but I do have it now.
Well, you know what sucks, Cole, is that I picked the book this time.
Yeah, it is kind of a shame, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know, because like comics are, it just feels weird to dive into comics right now, right? Because we've still got roughly a million. We've got roughly a million books in Legends. So listeners, don't get too excited. I'm probably not going to pick Dark Empire for my next go around.
Yeah, just know that it's on the table now because I do own it. So
yes. And you said you haven't looked at it much. And now, how familiar are you with the story at all? I mean, obviously,
I know the broad strokes. That's
right.
Basically it, honestly.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say you watched The Rise of Skywalker. You know the broad.
I've got the cliff notes of it, just like J.J. Abrams.
I do want to drop in real quick and say that I watched that movie while I was working on Friday. I think it's aging well, Cole. I think so? I watched that movie and I'm like, this might beat The Force Awakens for me. Now, obviously, The Force Awakens they're at best, I think they'll tie, because The Force Awakens does a lot of things a lot better than The Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of problematic elements, or at least a few, that do impact my enjoyment of the movie. But like, I don't really cringe at the kiss at the end anymore. It's like, just like I figured, it's all coming out in the wash. It's just another Star Wars movie. Is it the best one? No, especially stacked up against The Last Jedi. It's not even the best in its trilogy, but it's good. I like it. I'm into it. I love that that opening sequence between Palpatine and Kylo Ren. That's just crazy. And then the fight on Endor between Ren and Rey. I don't know. Not going to get into it right now. It's aging favorably for me. But anyway, Dark Empire's on the table.
Like 6 months or something, so
that doesn't shock me.
Because I haven't watched a Star Wars movie in months at this point, probably.
Well, you're obsessed with Stargate now. It makes sense.
Yeah. Still kind of sad.
Well, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you can't.
No, that's not true. I watched Attack of the Clones whenever we were thinking about doing that retrospective on it the other day.
Right.
Like,
Why
I
didn't
don't know,
that
like
happen?
2 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, I can't remember why that didn't happen. But
Maybe some news came out or something?
yeah, I think that's what happened. That was like last week where we sit down to record one thing, start talking about some other stuff, and
Lo and behold, we have an episode.
we've got an episode. An hour and 20 minutes later, we've got a full episode. But hey, there are worse ways to do a podcast, if you ask me, because now we have at least 2 topics in the bank ready to be pulled out at a moment's notice. But I actually, I don't know if you're familiar with this. I've seen it on Reddit a lot, so you probably are. I said I was ready for the article. I'm not. There's one more thing. I don't know if this qualifies as home release talk. And Dakota, I apologize when you get to this point if it does. But are you familiar with the supercut of Revenge of the Sith that is mixed with the Siege of Mandalore?
I mean, I know people have done it. I haven't seen it or looked into it much.
Okay, well, I've downloaded it. It is roughly 4 hours long. So if you're looking for your 4-hour Star Wars movie, this is it.
So it's like the whole Siege of Mandalore mixed in with the whole of Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, chronologically.
Wow.
I haven't gotten a chance to like sit down and watch it. I probably will like at work tomorrow because, you know, I've seen both of them, so I don't have to pay attention super closely. But initial impressions are that it's pretty cool. Revenge of the Sith, of course, being the weakest prequel movie. I don't know. I don't know. That might be strong. It's if you took the good parts of Attack of the Clones and the good parts of Revenge of the Sith, put them in a 2.5-hour movie. That is an amazing film right there. Is what I'll say. But of course, I love them all. I'm not trying to. No, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Revenge of the Sith, though, it's just an interesting concept. It is a little jarring to go from animation to the live action. So there is a certain amount of kind of suspension of disbelief that comes with the territory. But if you just look at it from a narrative perspective, could be super cool. I'm really looking forward to the end whenever we've got, you know, like the Ahsoka and Vader stuff at the end of Clone Wars mixed with the end of Revenge of the Sith.
I wonder how they're going to handle that because there's stuff literally happening like concurrently.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say whoever created this did their best.
Yeah.
Star Wars itself has we'll call it a rocky relationship with time. So I think it is interesting to see how they're going to handle it. But I think that at the end of the day, it's probably going to be fine. Right? Because it's just all time moves at the speed of plot in Star Wars. We all know this. This is not news. But there's also a cut out there of Rogue One and A New Hope into one super long movie with the addition of some of the deleted scenes from A New Hope. Not all of them, but some of them. And I would be lying if I said I did not have an immense amount of interest in that project as well. Done by the same person, from what I understand. But
I mean, that's literally just putting them back to back. I don't really understand the trouble there beyond just cutting out the credits, I guess.
I think there's a new. I've seen some clips. I think it is mostly gonna. I think most of the work does come from, cutting out the credits and like the opening crawl. I think they said they made a new opening crawl as well. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it's definitely one of those things. There's like, if I've got the hard drive space and the bandwidth to download it, why not? You know. It seems cool if I can convince some people. Maybe the next Skyhopper Con or Celebration, whatever. I can get a bunch of people together, a bunch of Star Wars fans, kind of confined. Yeah. I mean, especially like if Dakota's there, I don't think we're gonna have too much trouble. I will definitely have another voice supporting me in the let's watch the 4-hour Siege of Mandalore Revenge of the Sith supercut. You know, like I think.
Oh, I'm never gonna turn that down. It's just that I don't have the internet speed to download these things.
The file size did shock me. It is a 14K file or 14 gigabyte file. I wish it was 14K.
It's one of those things I'd have to have my brother download it for me on his fasternet and like burn it to a disk and then give it to me.
It is interesting though. The person who I do have some amount of respect for the person who created it, because the way you downloaded it actually kind of it's an interesting process. You've got to like email an email address, you get an automated reply with a link to a Google Doc, and the Google Doc those files are all hosted in different Google Drives. There's actually another cut that is, I will say I was interested in but didn't download. It's called the Kurosawa cut, and it's exactly what you'd expect. It is Revenge of the Sith / Siege of Mandalore, black and white, a little added film grain, Japanese audio.
Oh, of course.
That definitely a cool idea. I might like to have it, but
like Japanese audio with subtitles.
With subtitles, yeah. I think it's might be just a little bit over the top for me. The added film grain, I looked and I don't think it really does it any favors. You know, it's just there's just too much kind of cognitive dissonance there, where it's like, okay, well, look at these, you know, modern practical effects, modern CG. You look at the modern CGI and then the animation with the kind of very clearly just like artificial film grain and kind of dirt marks and stuff on the film. But a cool idea. So I don't know. It's a pretty neat thing that's running around out there. But I won't linger on it for too much longer, because y'all probably are sick of hearing about various versions of these movies that we've all seen a trillion times, especially when most of you probably just go to Disney Plus, click Revenge of the Sith, and watch that one. You watch that one for A New Hope as well, and all of the other Star Wars movies. And there's no shame in that.
McClunky
I'm just broken.
edition.
McClunky edition. I think I was actually looking at, I might have been the originaltrilogy.com forum. Someone might have been asking about putting the McClunky edition, the McClunky clip into A New Hope, one of the versions, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I love how they just put the movie out there on Disney Plus. They're like, hey, Star Wars is live on Disney Plus. You can watch all of them in 4K. And they expected did they just expect no one to catch it? Did they expect no one to say anything about McClunky?
I think they knew, and there's like, there's no right way to do this. There's no way we can tell them George did them one last favor.
Yeah.
We just gotta let them experience it, you know?
You know, Matt Martin watched he's like, the cut is like, this is the cut we're putting on Disney Plus, and Matt Martin just goes, you've got to be kidding me. I don't have the energy for this. People are going to be tweeting at me about this for the next 6 months. Ever since Pablo Hidalgo took his Twitter private, you know, Matt Martin's probably getting the brunt of a lot of this nonsense. But I don't know. There are worse things. I, for one, don't hate McClunky, but that could also be because I don't have to watch it. Anyway, 40 minutes into the podcast, I have an article if you're ready to receive it.
Excellent. Hit me.
All right. This article is 2,992 BBY. The following events took place in 2,992 BBY. There's one event. The Paitian Empire collapses, and this is an approximate date. The Paitian Empire is a hegemony in the Outer Rim territories, which collapsed in 2,992 BBY. The Empire used the planet Dathomir as a prison colony for criminals who had designed battle droids. Oddly specific. Very specific. This appears... Are you on the article? Are you going to cheat if I... You're gonna cheat. It appears once in the Courtship of Princess Leia. I was going to quiz you. Have you spent too much time on these in-universe year pages?
Not at all.
Well, they get pretty wild. Let's see. There are 3. I'd say about 1 actual like full line of text on this page total in the content section of the page. Mm-hmm. But in the notes of references, we've got at least 30 lines down here. And like I told you, that's where things get a little spicy. The real meat of this article for me, and the thing that I thought was interesting about it was, as you might guess, not the year itself. Just in the notes and references, you've got the first one, which just points to the courtship of Princess Leia. Makes sense. Then you've got the second note is the complete Star Wars encyclopedia and the essential atlas establishes the endpoints of the 2 bordering eras as 3950 BBY and 2000 BBY. 2 bordering eras meaning I can't even tell. I don't know where this appears. But so I'm like, yeah, the number 3
galactic era this year takes place in, the era before it and the era after it, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. Then you're going all the way back in the third note. You're going all the way back to Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi Book 2, Prisoner of Bogan. Establishes the year 36453 BBY as the date of the Tho-Yor arrival, which is the 0 point of the Tho-Yor arrival dating system, meaning the difference between the calendar based on the Battle of Yavin and the TYA year notation system is 36,453 years. This date is derived from simple math based upon other confirmed dates. Mm-hmm. So, and now we've got another note talking about the Great Hyperspace War and when that begins. Calendar based on the Treaty of Coruscant. What I'm just surprised at is the level of detail that not only the Essential Atlas go to, just the new Essential Guides in general. The Essential Atlas and the Essential Chronology get so granular, but just the sheer amount of information that's contained in the complete Star Wars encyclopedia, I cannot imagine how much work that took to compile.
Yeah.
You're going through basically everything that's come out to that point, no matter how obscure. Pretty much everything has an entry there. Everything to that point, obviously, whenever that was published. Just a truly monumental undertaking. Now, I don't know that I'll ever choose another article that's just a year, because I don't think that that's super interesting, and instead just kind of acts as a jumping off point. But I did want to take a second and just point out just how impressive it is to have, like, an online resource is one thing. An online resource that can be edited by literally anybody is one thing. To have, I think it's like 3 people that are credited as authors on the complete Star Wars encyclopedia. That's wild to me. It is 3 volumes, and every page has page spread has like 20 to 30 different entries. It's just absolutely wild to me. It also makes me a little sad that I just can't know everything.
It's impossible. There's so much stuff.
It is, and I've looked into this before, but I do not remember what this notation is. It's 43:2:28. I think it's another in-universe dating system.
Yeah, I think it's like a more specific dating system, like giving you like months and stuff, I think.
Right. And I just I understand why they haven't given us any sort of official in-universe dating system. But I wish they would. All they have to do is give us one date on Coruscant, right? And then all bets are off. We're going to figure it all out.
It only takes one.
But it just takes one. And you know what?
It takes one, and then there were some.
I bet that's what the story group does. They make sure that nobody is putting in-universe dates in their stories.
It's like anytime an author tries to do it, they're like, no. We have an explicit rule about dates in our universe.
Well, it is such a hugely cascading effect, right? If they were to do it, because it changes everything. At least for canon at this point, because I believe, the canon articles also use ABY BBY because it's not an official. It doesn't really matter because it's not an official in-universe dating system. It never has been. So, I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. But anyway, don't want to get too deep on that or any deeper than I already have, I guess. It's been roughly 84 years, but we did read something, did we not?
We did. Vaguely, at least.
Vaguely?
Yes, we read a few tales from Jabba's palace.
We did.
Shall we get into it?
Yes, please.
All right. Our first tale of the evening is the tale of the Gamorrean guard, Gartog, and Then There Were Some, which is just a fantastic title.
It's really good.
The title's probably better than the story, unfortunately.
I would agree. I think the story, though, is like nice and fun, and I don't remember if I said this here or if I said it on Skyhoppers. I kind of think that the quality of story overall is a little bit lower than what I remember in this so far, which is to say I'm not enjoying myself. But none of them carry quite enough weight. But I think we're kind of getting to a few of the meatier ones here. Beginning with, and then there were some. I say air quotes meteor. Kind of, you talked about there's an overarching plot thread that kind of stretches throughout all of these stories, and I think we're kind of getting a little closer to that.
Yeah, we are, but also I feel like there's a lot of retreading through these of stuff that we've already experienced. Especially this one. Because we've seen Gartog in like basically every story so far.
I know, but Kevin J. Anderson isn't known for not being ham-fisted.
It's true.
So anyway, and then there were some.
And then
Tale
there were
of
some.
the Gamorrean Guard, or Gamorrean Guard's Tale, or whatever it's called.
Yep. So a story opens up. Gartog is on patrol, and he happens to be there whenever Bausch brings in Chewie, and he tries to help, but gets like shushed away because that's what always happens, basically.
Yeah.
And he just wants to be posted on the sail barge once. That's really like his main goal in life, because he feels like that's a prestigious post, and he's never earned it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that it would be a prestigious post, right? It's like you get to go out and you get to be on the party boat instead of hanging out in the. I mean, it's. He says that he kind of gets. I mean, even in this story, he kind of gets just shoved down into the dungeons, guarding down there where nothing ever happens.
Yeah, he's always in the places where nothing exciting happens, and he never gets to do anything important.
Right. So, I mean, if your entire existence is guarding things, wouldn't you want to guard the party boat?
I guess so. But
yeah.
Unfortunately, Gartog is he's not the brightest Gamorrean. Even the other Gamorreans think he's an idiot, and everyone thinks Gamorreans are idiots.
I know. Which, I mean, it's really kind of. What's the word I'm looking for? There's something weird about the fact that the other Gamorreans keep telling him to speak in complete sentences.
It is really weird. That is the main joke in the end, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
So he doesn't speak in complete sentences, and everyone has trouble understanding him. But he's just not the brightest, unfortunately.
No, he's not.
And then we have our first intersection of the story where he goes to the kitchens and he finds Porcellus standing over the kitchen boy's body.
Dun dun dun.
And he's like, is he dead? Of course he's not dead. He's just sleeping.
That I will say that is a good running gag. I love that gag. He's just sleeping. He's meditating. Yeah,
like I said, this is the intersection of the other stories we've already seen. Heck, I think we've already seen him from like multiple perspectives at this point.
Yeah.
And after this happens, he then has a like brief encounter with Danik Jericho, which I don't think we've run into yet.
No, we haven't.
But he's like really just gets mentioned barely here, and he's referred to as the snot vampire.
The snot vampire.
And apparently he's the only one that Gartog really fears besides Jabba.
Well, he's not made out to be friendly.
It's true, he's not.
You know? Everyone, I kind of get the vibe that everybody in Jabba's palace feels bumbling on some level.
You're definitely right. Everyone kind of feels like they don't know what they're doing or don't have a handle on all the situations going on.
Like, even Mara Jade screwed up.
It's true, she did.
You know, and it's like Timothy Zahn writes all of his characters 15% smarter than everybody else. So, that's just like having someone who's... I almost feel that by having him just be mentioned now, at this point, makes him scarier. Because we've met so many other characters to this point in the book. Having someone who doesn't show up till like about halfway through or a little less than halfway through. And
he's like barely like a passing mention. Where like he sees him and like hides until he goes away.
Well, actually he's not even, does he even show up in Return of the Jedi?
That's a great question. I don't think so. Or if he is, he's just very much in the background.
Yeah, I've never known him. No, he's not. He doesn't show up. I mean, it makes sense. He's on Tatooine. He's in, the cantina in episode 4, but he's a goofy looking guy. When you go to the Wikipedia page, there's an image from I don't know what Star Wars Gamer #1. Looks like a behind the scenes image. He's got some funny looking teeth, but
of course he does.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. Oh, and I messed up earlier. I said that it was the kitchen boy's body. It was actually Akbaz, the leader of the sail barge.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
He was the first body actually.
Yeah,
yeah. But later he finds Porcellus and Reese with the kitchen boy's body, and he's actually dead. They actually don't try to say he's not dead, I don't think, or maybe they try to play it off or something, but they try to make it like a mystery he's got to solve.
Yes.
It's like, hey, you figure this out, it'll be a good thing for you. And he's like, oh, sweet, I'll get my sail barge job. Because he's a one-track mind. He really is.
He is.
He's really dedicated. I mean, he's really dedicated. He spends days walking around with this body.
And that's gross, but you know what, Cole? I think he's a likable character.
He is. He's
likable. And it upset me that people are so mean to him. Because he's just trying to help.
He's trying to help, but he also just has trouble communicating. And
He does. People shouldn't be mean to him for that.
Oh. Well, people have bad experiences with Gamorreans, and so it doesn't help things. And
no, it doesn't. And it's just, it strikes me as, it's just like very, I don't know. It feels like humor of the time for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a kid's cartoon from this period, I feel like would do the same thing. And I'm not saying it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's
I got you.
Yeah. It hurts my feelings a little bit to see people be so mean to him. Mm-hmm. He's just trying to help. Anyway.
So he's on patrol. He's looking for clues. He goes by the Rancor pits and he finds that Malakili is feeding a body to the Rancor, and he offers to feed the body he's carrying around to him as well. So, oh, no, I can't do that. It's evidence. Got to keep it. So Malakili's trying to do a solid for him. But
yeah.
Because we know Malakili's a good guy.
We do know Malakili's a good guy. Super chill.
And he goes back to I guess they're the quarters the Gamorreans all hang out in, and meets up with his boss Ortog,
yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, why you still have this body? He's like, I'm trying to solve the mystery. He's like, okay, well, if you do that, we'll let you do the sail barge job. And this makes him happy, of course. He's very excited, but doesn't really have anything to go on. And we have another intersection. He sees Jaquil and the monk. And the monk is just meditating, obviously.
Just meditating. What's his explanation for the gash in his chest? Something about that's where their brains are, and it's
he was meditating so they can take his brain out, and his brains are in his chest, obviously, because it's easier to get to him.
Which is funny because I think I guess Jaquil's just coming up with anything, but I'm pretty sure that the Bomar monks there can be any species.
It's probably
it's not a race thing. But anyway, actually no, that's I know of at least one human who is canonically in the Bomar order. So, so yeah, nice cover up.
Yeah,
just again. Taking advantage of Gartog.
Yep. So Gartog hauls the monk's body off too. Now he's got two bodies. One of them dead, one of them just meditating.
Just meditating.
Because he can't just be meditating in the hallway. Someone will trip over him.
Someone's going to trip on him.
Yeah. And this is when he finds out that a Jedi showed up out of nowhere, caused a whole bunch of trouble. And they're going to be taken out to the Sarlacc pit on the sail barge. And so he's like, oh, crap, I've got to get this figured out. It's going to be too late. And after much deliberation, he determines it must have been the snot vampire that did it because there's no evidence.
You talked about that a little bit last time, I think. We talked about Gartog and how he does reach the right conclusion, but seemingly only by chance.
And the thing is, at this point, I still don't think we even know for sure who did kill them. All of them.
No, we don't. Because
we know Jaquil killed the monk, but beyond that, we don't know.
We don't know who killed Akbuz and Phlegman.
Yeah.
Now, I can't tell. I don't want to talk too much about this, but I can't tell if this is meant to be... You love to use the term lamp shading, and I don't know if I'm using it right. I can't tell if this is a similar thing where it's just like, if this is supposed to cast, if Gartog's conclusion is meant to make people be like, oh, it's not Danik Jericho.
It's a good question. I don't know.
But
it's like the dumb guy coming to that conclusion. Does that mean it can't be that guy?
Right. But if you know a little thing about Danik Jericho, and I'm assuming too that these came out soup. I'm assuming these came out chronologically, where it's like Tales of Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales for the Bounty Hunters, Tales from Jabba's Palace.
I think so.
Kind of one, so if you know who Danik Jericho is by this point, you obviously you kind of know what's going on here, not to spoil too much, but you know what he does, what the Anzadi do, but hashtag soup. But anyway, yeah, and then we're left at the very end with the. Are we at the end yet?
Yes, we are. Well, he tells all this to Ortog, and he's like he's got to have been the one that did it, and he's like, no, definitely not.
No. So Gartog gets to live, because he doesn't end up on the sail barge.
He doesn't go on the sail barge.
Yeah, and it's really sad there at the end where he puts the two bodies down. Phlegman is like
decomposing,
decomposed. And he just sits him down. He's like, so what do you guys want to do now? It just made me sad because I'm like, he's a nice guy. He just wants to help and he doesn't have any friends. No one's nice to him.
But he managed to say a full sentence at the end.
He did. And I think I think it was supposed to be funny, but I didn't think it was funny. I was just it just made me a little sad there at the end. But overall, I think it was a fun story.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
it's got a great title.
Yes, the title is probably the best part. Who wrote this part? Who wrote this one? Do you remember? Did you mark that down?
I can find out real quick. William F. Wu.
Yes, who has only written this. This article is a stub of stubs. This is crazy. William F. Wu.
Is it just like he just wrote this and that's it?
Yeah. That's it. I'm assuming he's done, other stuff outside of Star Wars, but that's not linked to. It's not linked to on the article anywhere.
Huh.
So now we're moving on to old friends. Infant Mon's Tale, correct?
Infant Mon.
Does the author by the name of Kenneth C. Flint ring any bells for you?
Isn't he the guy who wrote
He is.
Heart
He
of
is.
the Jedi?
He is the guy that wrote Heart of the Jedi. And I'll tell you what, Cole, after reading this story and knowing that it's him, it made me want to read Heart of the Jedi because I think this story is good.
I agree it's good.
I thought this story was really good. And I always have had it in the back of my mind. I'm like, if Aunt Mon's a bro, why is he a bro? I don't remember, but I know he's a bro.
Story.
It's because of the story. It's because of the story,
Yeah.
which I think I probably read sometime as a younger child and did not remember that I got this book from the library or something.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he's a cool guy. I like him.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The book that this one is written in like first person, and to me, it kind of reads almost like noirish.
Yeah, it does. I think it's the way he talks. I think it's got a very kind of like 1930s, 40s. Not like dialect, but maybe even a little bit of kind of that kind of dialect, but it's just the way he his mannerisms, I think, strike me as very noir-ish for sure.
And going to like the bar and getting drinks and everything. Well, it all reads like that.
Yes.
Intrigue between two different gangsters.
Right. Not to bury the lead, but yeah, like I said, I thought this one was good.
Agreed. Like I said, I like Infant Mon quite a bit. Yeah. So it opens up with him seeing Skywalker, or this time it's Skywalker coming in, not Boosh and Chewie, but he sees Skywalker being brought in and getting his way past the guards and getting Fortuna to take him in just immediately. Then he like looks back and like makes eye contact with him, and suddenly his like memories start flooding back to him, and it's this really interesting like vision he has or something.
Wonder why.
Yeah. Very strange. But as soon as like Luke looks away and goes away, he like vanishes, and he's like, "Whoa, that was really weird." But he makes his way back to the garage because he's got an appointment to keep, and he meets with Barada, who's the like main mechanic, I think.
Also a bro.
Also a cool guy. Yeah, he's totally cool.
Yeah.
He lets him take out the nice speeder, which is an XP-38, which is that the one that Luke says is like maybe is like less expensive or less worthwhile?
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember. I think Luke has an X-38 and it's the XP-38 is the new one.
I thought his was like a 34 or something.
It is.
Okay, yeah.
I'm dumb.
Okay, it was a 34, and he's like, ever since the 38 came out, there's not in demand.
Yeah.
And turned out the X-38 is pretty quick, but it does have loose steering, he says.
Fun little detail.
Yeah, so he takes back to Mos Eisley, and he's meeting with Lady Valerian, which it's interesting, like he's meeting with her, but I don't know to what end, really, beyond just she made him an offer, and he's like saying no.
I guess. I mean, I think that it's kind of, it's stated that they have a good relationship, so maybe he's just like, he thought he'd do her the courtesy of going and talking to her in person.
Yeah.
He
I guess
seems like that. Seems like
has.
yeah. Seems like something he'd do.
It does. It does. Or maybe like communicating over the airways would be he think is too risky.
True. That also makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But before he actually meets with the Lady Valerian, he has to go to the bar, get himself a drink, and a couple of guys are like making fun of him for the way he looks because he is a pretty interesting looking fellow.
Yeah, we'll say interesting.
What's with the long face, man? And
I think there's a joke here.
There's a what?
I think there's a joke here.
Yeah, I think there's a
guy
joke.
Walks into a bar.
I think there's a joke.
Like, yeah.
But they try to hustle him a little bit, and he ends up just killing him.
Absolutely wiping the floor with him.
Oh yeah, like smashes one of their skulls in and knifes the other guy. It's like, oh, this guy means business.
Yeah, killing them is an understatement, and you're doing him a disservice by saying that he just killed.
He goes all John Wick on him.
Yeah, he does. It's bugged me forever. There's a planet called Chev. If Aunt Mon is a Chevin, there's a planet called Chev, but the Chevins are from Vinsoth.
Gotta love it.
Doesn't that just drive you up the wall?
Did the Chevins discover the planet Chev and they named it maybe?
Let's see if Chev is on there. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh, well, let me go to the Chevin page here. Chevin. Chev. Oh, God, it shows up 57 times. Keep going. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Okay. And also in the bar here is Prefect Talmont, who I think we've mentioned at least before that he's the Imperial presence, like, leader on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Though he's definitely, like, in bed with all the criminals here because that's what he does.
Oh, no, I'm a fool. Mm-hmm. There are 2 native sentient species to Vinsoth. The Chevs are slaves, or humanoid, and they're slaves of the Chevin. So Chevs are from Vinsoth. I got confused. Okay.
Well, I do remember this because that comes up in that comes up as an important plot point in Fate of the Jedi, actually.
What is going on in that series?
There's a lot going on in that series. Not all of it good, but that's not like a bad plot point in that series.
Okay, yeah. So there's your secondary little random article for the week.
Oh yeah, so he has a brief like talk with Talmont, and like seems to get under his skin a little bit by mentioning Tessic, who apparently he's got some affiliation with, and who we haven't met yet, I don't think.
Nope, but it's just if you want to know what he's like, just think of how pretty much literally every other Quarren in Star Wars
has ever been portrayed,
depicted. And then you've got Tessic.
He's like that, and he's living in Jabba's palace. So what do you think?
Not a lot good happening there.
Yeah. So Valerian finally meets up with Ephant, and he's like, "Hey, sorry, I'm not going to turn on Jabba for you." And she's kind of mad, but she's also like understanding. It's like, "Hey, it's cool, and it's good that you're loyal, I guess, but I don't know why you're loyal to that guy because he's a scumbag." Not that she's any better.
I was going to say, it's like, isn't she also a crime lord?
Yeah, but maybe she's like slightly more honorable. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it from what we've seen.
Well, it doesn't, but also Jabba's pretty bad. I think Jabba is kind of set up to be one of the worst of the worst.
Usually.
Because you don't get as powerful as he is by being soft on people, right?
It's true. I think the only time we ever see him being like kind of cool is whenever he's first like getting chummy with Han.
Yeah, he's literal friends with Han Solo.
So Han, sit on my tail. It's cool.
Oh, I forgot all about that. I love that so much.
Take a load off. It's fine.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so he's pretty much just like denying Valerian's offer, but he's like, he's like, "Hey, Jabba's going to go down sometime soon." He's like, "Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen." And she's like, if that happens and you survive, you can always come work for me because you're cool." So everyone seems to like Ephant a little bit.
Yeah. Again, it's hard not to. He's portrayed as a pretty cool dude.
Yep, totally. So he returns to the Jabba's palace, and turns out while he was gone, Skywalker had the whole altercation with the Rancor and all that fun stuff. And he's like, "Oh, wow, missed out a whole bunch of stuff. Cool." Bad stuff happening. And then he has a meeting with Tessic, who he doesn't like. And he's all worked up. He's like, he's just sure that all this is going to come down and like mess everything up for him. And because he found out who Luke and Leia and Han all are. And they're like, "Oh crap, these guys are important. We can't be dealing with these guys."
Their plot armor is so thick.
He watched the movies. "Oh crap, these guys are too powerful.
We can't do anything about this. We are powerless."
It's like the Empire couldn't stop them. What are we gonna do? "Well, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. That's what's gonna happen.
You're gonna die. That's what's gonna happen."
So Ephant's like, "Oh, I think I gotta meet this Skywalker guy." So he goes down to the prison and talks with Skywalker, and he's like, "Hey, I can tell you're a cool dude, and you're not, totally evil like a lot of the other people here. So you just gotta, get him to let us go, and we'll just leave. We don't have to kill everyone here." But Ephant knows that's not likely. But then Luke like touches him, and like he has another crazy vision of his past. It's really strange.
Yeah. It is, and I wonder, like, especially, I wonder why it happened the first time. It would make, it's, because I would assume, if Luke's doing it now, I would assume that Luke knew what he was doing the first time.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he was just reaching out with the Force, because it seemed like Ethan was kind of hiding. Maybe Luke was just, like, sensing everything going on, and, like, once he sensed him, he, like, touched his mind just to see if he was hostile or something.
True. That makes sense.
Yeah, doesn't seem to be any explanation, really.
No.
But after that, he's like, okay, well, I'll try, but I can't make any promises. And Luke's like, okay, I understand, but regardless, if everyone else has to die here, you don't have to, so get out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Luke's a cool guy. Luke's a cool guy.
Yeah, we know. We know.
So after that, he has a confrontation with Reese, and Reese is just the worst.
Cole, I have been saying this.
I know you have.
My entire life, publicly for the last 5 years.
Well, now we have evidence because we were reading these stories.
I'm so vindicated. I will say a little less vindicated than I thought after reading Goatgrass again. But we'll get into that when we get there in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. But Reese reveals that Tessic apparently has to deal with the Imperials to like have a raid on the palace and kill everyone. Don't really know what Talmud would gain out of that, but
no,
we don't get any more detail on that yet.
I think it's probably just the fact, him cleaning up. It makes him look good in the eyes of his superiors. I thought I read something about that. I thought somebody said something about that. I could be making it up.
That would make sense. He's just like, trying to get out of this post because this post sucks.
Right.
So Ethan goes to Jabba, and like Jabba's getting ready to load up on the sail barge to take everyone out to the Dune Sea, obviously. And he's like, hey, you're making a mistake. You got to let these guys go. And of course, he's not going to do that. So he's like, okay, well, I guess our friendship's over. And we also find out why they're like friends. We get like a backstory, which is actually like kind of interesting.
It is.
That they used to be like mercenaries together when Jabba was less fat.
Yeah, that's what I thought was funny too, is like, okay, so we've got like a Jabba the Hutt as Beldorian kind of situation where he's like young and strong. Mm-hmm. We've got like sexy Jabba.
The two of them like fight off a ton of mercenaries, but then they're stranded in the cold. And Jabba like literally like wraps himself around Ethan so they didn't freeze to death.
Yeah, saved his life.
Mm-hmm. So he has a debt from that, but ever since then, Ethan's been essentially just paying his debt back, keeping plots from happening and stuff. So he's really like kind of repaid the debt, as it were. But it is interesting that Jabba's like, if you thought it was just a debt, then I guess we weren't ever really friends, right?
Yeah, and it's like Ethan notes that like there's a bit of regret in his voice when he says it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like that. It's like, Kenneth, don't make me feel things for Jabba the Hutt.
It's like, hey,
dude is bad.
There's a real friendship here.
Don't. It's like, shut up, Ken. I don't want this. I don't want this feeling that you foisted onto me.
Heart of the Jabba.
Heart. I hate that. Oh, Jesus. Okay, you know what? I was going to call the episode Sit on My Tail, but this is a little less suggestive. I like Heart of the Jabba better. Okay.
Or Heart of the Hutt.
Anyway, yeah. Heart of the Hutt. Heart of the Hutt is better. Okay, we've done it. We've hit the Frieza final form of the title, Heart of the Hutt. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of an interesting character moment though. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, Jabba, I mean, all joking aside, Jabba does feel some amount of, at least for Ethan, he feels some amount of
like kinship and friendship.
Yeah,
loyalty.
And Jabba is not known for having that with other people, at least that I'm aware of.
No, not really. Him and Han kind of had something going on, but it was really more of like employer, employee, and just like Jabba just like thought he was cool.
Right. And I think it's one of those things. If Han hadn't like screwed up the Kessel Run, maybe it could have been something similar. Mm-hmm. Who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, that's a Star Wars Infinities we need to see, right?
I was going to say, that's the Infinities that I want.
The Kessel Run was successful. Jabba never had to dump that spice.
Yeah.
Went on to become Jabba's like chief lieutenant.
Then Han doesn't take it. Well, the only thing it changes is Boshek is now the one that takes Han or Luke, Obi-Wan, and the droids to Alderaan. But since he's not in the Falcon, he gets there way slower. So they get there like a week later, and the same thing happens, but the Death Star's just gone. As are the rebels.
Yep.
It's just game over.
Just a much sadder story.
Yeah, I was gonna say Boshek just biffs the whole thing. Anyway, that's a bit of a diversion, I think.
Yeah, so Jabba, he's like, no, I'm still going to kill these guys, and our friendship's over, but I'm not going to kill you because we've had this long friendship, so just, be gone.
Get out of here.
So sail barge leaves, and Ephant's like, well, I guess I got to get out of here. I got to find a new job, and the thing with Valerian doesn't seem as cool anymore because he feels like he's kind of like gone astray from his like real purpose in life. It's like, I think I'm just going to go home to his original world.
And it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's really nice. It's like he's this good guy who's been freed of this debt, that's caused him to do all these bad things and get wrapped up with all these criminals.
Luke's
and
just
that's
saving
not
people
who he
all over
is.
the place.
Yeah. Luke just tells people, it's like, that light is still in you. Go back to it. Mm-hmm. Go find it. And then, he's going back to his people.
I can feel
on
the good in
Vinsoth.
you, the conflict.
He's going to go back.
You got me.
He's going to go back and oppress the Chevs as is his birthright. That's what he wants. That's what he wants to do. But yeah, can you tell I'm just putting off this next story?
Yep, our next story is the infamous goat grass, the tale of Reese.
And if you missed it, Cole did a lovely audiobook rendition that I released a couple weeks ago.
There is an audiobook version of this particular story, at least.
And it's pretty good. So go back and check it out if you haven't. I know Dakota, who has been name dropped far too many times for the sake of his ego on this podcast, intends to just listen to this story rather than read it. But I don't know. It's a lot of fun. But this is Goatgrass, the Tale of Reese, and I remember the first time I read this being like, yeah, he sucks. He's the worst. But there's a little nugget in this that makes me think, yeah, he sucks, asterisk.
Okay. I'm interested to hear what that is.
Okay.
Yeah. So Reese, he's like struggling up the stairs of Jabba's palace to one of the like side entrances, carrying a bucket. Not really sure why, or if it says why.
I assumed that he was just feeding the bubo.
Oh yeah, the frog dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's hauling the bucket out there, and he's hurting from a recent encounter with Ephant Mon, of course, because they don't get along, obviously. And when he gets out to Bubo, he like removes a false wart, I think.
Yeah, it's gross. He's like digging around in a wart or something.
Yeah,
like,
when I was first reading it, I was like, is this thing like actually a droid, like secretly? But no, I think it's just the wart is like a plant essentially that'll let him like essentially just like a messenger node of some sort.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. I think he can just hide it in him because it's like how you can stick like an M&M in a bulldog's jowls. I think it's the same kind of thing where it's just like there's just so much loose skin there that who's gonna look for the transmitter in the wart of a bubo? No,
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he pulls his transmitter out, sees that it's got like a signal saying the shipment was delivered. He's like, sweet. Finally, we're getting very close to this actually working out. And because he's like kind of miserable all the time, and he just drinks to like pass the time, and so he doesn't have to think about anything.
Yeah, and that's my asterisk, is that he is a miserable alcoholic. And of course, I feel differently about people who struggle with alcohol in real life. But he is stuck here, basically. He wants to go home, and he's miserable, and that's why he drinks and is terrible. Mm-hmm. Not just because he drinks and he's terrible.
He's also like specious. Like he hates everyone with two eyes.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. See, it is he sucks asterisks, He sucks asterisks. It is he sucks asterisk, but he does still suck. That remains to be true.
Yeah, for sure.
He is a racist.
Totally. He hates everyone with two eyes because they're all weird and different.
And you know what? You know what? Your own personal issues do not give you license to treat everybody else like crap. So he still sucks.
He's still bad.
Don't get me wrong. Instead of being the grand throwing the thermal detonators, in this case, he is the thermal detonator. So he is in a way still the most problematic of all grands.
Probably.
But yeah, okay, I'm feeling like less of an asterisk now. I'm glad we talked through that. He's just bad. He just sucks. He's the worst.
So he returns into the palace and he has an encounter with somebody, but then Tessic stops him from saying more than he's supposed to. Because the two of them kind of have a plot together, but he's also seems like Reese is just using him, essentially. Or thinks he's using him. Everyone's got a plot going on.
Yeah.
And Reese involves pieces to a bomb that they're constructing. Mm-hmm. And that night, Jabba, he orders a secret watch, because this is right after Leia showed up, and Marjay had already tipped Jabba off, I guess. I think that's the pieces we're putting together here. Is that Marg tipped off Jabba that something was off about all this? And
yeah, I think so.
That's all that's revealed. And while that's happening, Reese sneaks off to get his tankard refilled and also to check on the shipment that came in. And this is where he runs into the kitchen boy's dead body and the case of goat grass that was supposed to conceal the bomb part, but it's missing and smashed open. Mm-hmm. So more plot pieces clicking together.
Mm-hmm. Plots abound.
Yeah. And he's, distressed, obviously, that the detonator's gone.
Yeah.
And this is when he starts to have weird visions that I don't really understand, honestly.
I think we're led to believe it's Luke.
I think so.
But again, it's one of those things where it's just why is Luke doing this?
Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because he essentially just has visions of stuff from the original trilogy. It's mainly there's fire, but then there's also a battle in the snow with the walkers and the swamp.
Yeah, that's what I don't get at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it makes me wonder if Luke isn't just acting as some kind of, as Qui-Gon says, a virgins in the Force, and it's people who maybe are slightly Force sensitive or reacting to it in some way.
Maybe. Because they mentioned stuff about him seeing things in his third eye and such. So it's very, very strange.
That's a good third eye joke, I guess. I don't know what I'm
I don't
supposed
know,
to
man.
make of that.
I don't know
what I'm supposed to make of that, Deborah.
But regardless, after he comes out of his vision, he realizes he's in a chamber lined with brains and jars. So he's in the Moar monk room.
And he thinks it's part of the vision, which I love.
He originally thinks it's part of the vision, but he's wait, no, I'm really here. Oh, crap.
I'm actually here. Oh, my God.
And in the middle of a room, someone walks in a cloak and can't tell if they're human or what species they are, what gender they are. And essentially just gives him a warning. It's the flames are a warning. What's going to happen to you and your master if you don't get out of this place? And he's freaks out at first, but then he's wait a minute. Flames, that's the bomb. The bomb's going to work. Yes.
Who's in the cloak?
I don't know. I think maybe there's something we're going to find out later.
Maybe?
I don't know.
I don't. It's Luke was wearing a cloak when he came in.
Yeah, maybe all this is going to come together when there's a later story that, fleshes it out more.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm because okay, my first thought was Luke. I think Black Cloak. I'm oh, it's Luke. But then I'm that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Because why would he be out of jail? And then
he
got
the cloak comes off their arm, and he sees the arm, and it's he describes it. And it seems really strange. I don't know.
I mean, I wish there was a monk's tail, a Bormar monk's tail. But yeah, I don't know. I bet it comes up later. That's a little too weird for it to not come up later.
Yeah, hopefully it clarifies it. So he's mainly just It's like, hey, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. My bomb's going to work. And so he ends up on the sail barge when they're taking everyone out to the Dune Sea and partying like crazy. And then things go wrong, of course. And when Jabba's like starting to be choked, he's both happy, but then he realizes suddenly that Jabba's like saying like code phrases to trigger like a mental like hypnosis thing. So he'll like help him, but then also like trigger a bomb in his chest that was put there and then like erased from his mind by surgical techs. It all comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does. It all is very, very out there.
Mm-hmm. But thankfully, Leia kills Jabba before he can do it, and so he's free and he's happy, and then the sail barge explodes and he dies.
He dies. And then, of course, canon has robbed us of that because we know he's still hanging out at the beginning of the Book of Boba Fett.
Well, maybe we're going to get to actually see his death on screen now. Maybe that'll be the payoff for us.
We can only hope that I get to watch Reese die violently on screen. Sorry if you're listening, Rob Williams. But yeah, and he dies.
And he dies. So that's the tale of Reese. But he does have like a pleasant like final moment of like seeing his home planet.
Thinking about boobs. Thinking about boobs.
Thinking about women.
Yep.
Lovely.
Yeah, he's great. He's really a stand-up class A guy.
All right. And our final tale. And the band played on. The band's tale.
Yeah, this was, I would say, the only one that I was like, okay. You know?
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's weird because like I think it starts off stronger than it ends in that.
Yeah, it does.
It's like at the end, especially like the last like, half of it, it's just like recounting stuff we already know.
I know. That was the problem because like all these characters on their own are fine. Like this would have been fine, but it just kind of the first part I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and then it just dies.
And I think it's interesting to note that this is pre-special edition.
Yes,
right? Because it doesn't have. I don't even know the guy's name. The other singer guy.
I don't either. He's got to have a name, right?
He has to have a name. The main singer guy from Jedi Rocks isn't part of this now. So,
Joe Yauza, that's his name.
Yeah, he's not in this tale at all because it's pre-special edition. So.
Hey, fun fact today, because this is going to be a perfectly me thing to do, I think. I was poking around on the Star Wars Behind the Magic CD-ROM today, because that's just how I live.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Alien Species section of that, there is a section for Yuzum, which is what Joe Yauza is, the singer guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this, never mind. This came out in 1998. This came out way later than I thought it did. That's special editions. Never mind. This isn't interesting. Sorry. I thought Behind the Magic came out earlier, and I'm like, well, that's weird. We've got a screenshot from the special editions before they came out. But that's just patently untrue. Although I will say, I thought Jedi Rocks was a Blu-ray edition, not a special edition.
Oh, no. No, that's definitely...
Jedi Rocks is 97.
Yep.
Did they update it then? Because it certainly looks better than Jabba from 1997.
I mean, it's probably been updated a little bit, but I don't think it's been changed much.
I wonder why the effects look so much better for them than they do.
It's probably just because it's like more in the scene, so they probably spent more time on it. And it's also
I guess
darker.
It's its own scene. Plus it's its own scene. Whereas they used pre-existing footage, they had to superimpose this Jabba over human Jabba,
and it's all like lit, and it's lit better and everything. So I imagine all that has to do with it.
You're probably right, because I will say that Jabba from 1997 does not look good, and it's just crazy when you look at the Jabba from.
Maki cheese.
I think you're probably right because when you look at Jabba from the Phantom Menace, who was in development at roughly the same time, it looks so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So much better.
I think a lot of it is just that it doesn't look like it fits in the movie because it didn't fit in the movie.
It didn't. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, The Band's Tale.
Yep, and the band played on part 1, how the band came to Tatooine. The parts in this are just very deliberately named.
Yep. Pretty on the nose.
On the nose, not clever about any of it, really.
Nope. Much like the story itself.
Yeah. So we meet Ivar Orbus and his galactic jizz whalers. Of course. Just, you know, wonderful.
Ivar Orbus is a 100% Melvosh Blore kind of name, and I think it's bad. There, I said it. Doesn't belong here. Hello, my name is Ivar Orbus. You know, like... And
what's his species? I don't even remember if they said it. I think they did.
It's got a bunch of tentacles. That's all I know.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay. I'm like, that, okay. Stereotypical sci-fi alien. Got it. That's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. So they arrive on Tatooine and are waiting transport because they're supposed to be having a 6-month gig at Chow Moon's Cantina.
Yes.
Of course. It's got to be that cantina.
I forgot about the opening of the story. It's pretty good.
So he gets there and Max Rebo comes out and he just wants to eat because that's what Ortolans are apparently do. They just want to eat all the time.
Yeah.
That's
real clever.
Like their defining trait.
Real clever,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. He's like, hey, go get the rest of the band. We got to go meet our guys. And so he calls up the cantina and is like, hey, where's our transport at? And a Bith answers for some reason. He's like, and tells them who he is and what they're for. Oh, okay. Transport will be there shortly, but it seems kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
to put it bluntly. and a few minutes later, or like 20 minutes later, Abith and his 3 compatriots show up with an Airbus. Like, all right, we'll take you to the cantina. And as soon as they're in the air, they all pull guns on them. Because it turns out
because Figure and Dan in the modal nodes don't take guff from anybody.
This is Figure and Dan in the modal nodes, and they are not about to be replaced.
Oh, I thought it was so good because I'm like, Bith, that's weird. He's there with a bunch of other Oh my God. It's Figure and Dan.
This is the best part of the tale, honestly.
It is. Because I just love the idea of like the Bith are like all about like art and like intellectual pursuits, but these guys have been on Tatooine long enough. They're like, no.
We got a good gig. We've been doing it for years. We're not letting up now.
We're not leaving.
And so they're literally going to like haul them out to the Sarlacc pit and drop them in to make sure they don't get their gig. It's like, man, these guys are extreme. They don't take nothing.
Well, and it's funny too, because if you know the story of the band from Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, I have to imagine that I can't remember the name of the bit that's like the point of view character in there, but I imagine him being dragged along by Figurin and it's just like, no, we can't take this. They're on our turf. Figurin's like, no, we're gonna go deal with them. He's like, Figurin, we can't. No,
we can't just kill these guys. No, we're going to.
No, we're going to. No option. They leave us no choice.
But thankfully, I think thankfully, Orbus turns out he's got like either a fake tentacle or like a modified tentacle that's got a flamethrower built into it.
I'm sorry.
It's not entirely clear.
Yeah. I just, I love explaining memes on the podcast. Do you remember the one that's like someone walks in and it's something like, I can't think of a good example. It's basically like Figure and Dan walks into a room with the rest of the band, grabs a gun, and just says there's another band here. And everyone's like, wait, what? And then he's walking out the room, he cocks the gun, he's like, there's another band here. I've butchered it. I want to cut this out of the podcast. I've butchered this.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's like, isn't it like an astronaut normally?
Yeah, no, it's not it's not the always was meme.
No, not that one, but it's the ones like
yeah. It's
Monsters on the Moon. It's like, what? Monsters on the Moon.
Yes, that's
or whatever it is.
That's it. Thank you. You nailed it. Yeah, but I got caught up thinking about that. I just love
space spiders. What? Space spiders.
Exactly. I just love the idea of a murderous Figure and Dan. Or as our good friend Ash.
They're gonna replace us.
As our good friend Ash, ex Skyhoppers podcast used to call him Finger and Dan, which is something else completely removed from what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah, so Orbis has a surprise flamethrower and shooting that off manages to crash the Airbus. And after they crash, they're trying to make their escape, and Orbis gets shot and is dead.
Yeah, he's done.
But the rest of the band manages to make it out and in the middle of this desert. And they're like, well, what are we going to do now? It's like, well, we got to go back for our instruments, obviously, because all we do is play music. What are we going to do without them?
Yeah.
And this is where he's being referred to before this as Snit.
Snit.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to be called that anymore, because apparently this other guy was a jerk about it.
Yeah, I mean, he like owned him.
Yeah.
I think it's like he was just a slave.
Mm-hmm. He's like, well, what do you want to be called? And he says like his real name. Like, oh, we can't pronounce that. We'll just give you a cool stage name. Droopy McCool, of course.
Which is a problem in its own right. But it's like, maybe if nothing else, ask him what he wants to be called that's pronounceable. Mm-hmm. Give him some amount of agency in the situation.
Yeah, but at least he's like, okay, that sounds cool. So,
yeah, he's like, that's fine, whatever. Better than Snit.
At least he's okay with it.
Yeah, I guess. This is still a step up.
Yeah. So they go back to the bus crash, and turns out Jaw was already raiding it, because that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to like bargain for their instruments and manage to get out of it without any too much trouble. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of part 1. Now they're on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Part 2, how the band came to Jabba's palace. Just, like I said, very straightforward names for everything.
Yeah, I'm recapping that first part. I'm like, how could we possibly expect the rest of the story to top that?
It's true. It's not great. But it is funny that they get rooms at Mos Eisley Towers.
Yeah.
which apparently is mostly underground, that's just great.
It is good.
That's funny. And they're out getting food.
That's entertainment.
Say what?
Now that's entertainment.
Yeah, that's entertainment. Oh, they're out getting some food, and they've run across Talent Scout from Jabba, and he's like, oh, yeah, you guys can come audition, and, if that works out, we'll, put you up at the palace, and it'll be a good gig for you. So what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
So they play for Jabba,
perfect.
and he's cool. He likes it, but they've put up Max Rebo as the front man, and so Jabba, like, offers to pay them in just food for life, and he's, like, totally cool with it.
Awesome.
And Slice Noodles is like, what have you done? Just the worst. Just the worst for her.
The worst.
She's not as bad as she was in Clone Wars, but
no. But you know what? She's about like on a base level. She's kind of the same.
You're probably right.
Which I thought was interesting. I noticed. I'm like, she's not that different than the Slice Noodles we know from the Clone Wars.
I guess you're right. That could track, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was neat, actually.
Yeah, because like she goes back to her room and like immediately gets an offer from Lady Valerian to like do spy work for her, and she's like, okay. And then we find out like the next scene, she's been visited by like 16 different people offering to like pay her to get for information, and she's got so much money already.
And then Bib Fortuna comes down and is like, no, I need you to tell me about all of these.
Yeah, you tell me about all this, and then we'll pay you even more. Kind of got it made.
Real quick, Ivar Orbus does have an appearance, does have an image.
How is it?
Kind of like an octopus. He's got like a humanoid looking face, a humanoid looking kind of shape to his face.
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a bird, but it's just like, no, it's the octopus beak.
He has an octopus beak, so he's basically just like an octopus guy.
Yeah, 8 tentacles, an egg-shaped head, 4 eyes, sharp beak. Yeah, so it's, octopus. One of those is fake, though. They all have the flamethrower tentacle.
Flame. Or maybe they just shoot flame instead of ink. Maybe that's not like a attachment. Maybe it's like natural.
Maybe.
Because we don't really know. It just... Because it's not from his point of view.
No. Okay, no, this isn't. I was just curious if we had seen Naroon, the talent scout, before. We have not.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been. They could have made that the same guy that recruited Mara.
Yeah. But yeah, I just, it makes me wonder how much kind of editorial oversight there was in general.
It's true. It doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
Yep. And so that's how they became Jabba's employees. And then finally, part 3, how the band became a duo. Boosh arrives with Chewie, and all that stuff happens. This last part is basically just the events of the movies happening.
Yep. I mean, we've all seen Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to believe there's someone listening to this podcast at an hour and 42 minutes in that has not seen Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Basically, all the events of the movie just happen. Leia comes in with Chewie, and then Luke comes in, and then they're all on the sail barge. Like, all of it just basically happens really, really fast. And then when the sail barge gets blown up, they manage to get off of it without dying. And in the middle of all this, at some point, a guard or somebody talks to Droopy and tells him that he heard that there were Kidonaks out in the desert for some reason. And
well, I think that's pretty. Their homeworld is arid.
Is desert? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they all survived the whole thing, and Sice Noodle's like, hey, we can do a new gig at Lady Valerian's. I've already been talking to her. And they're like, okay, but Droopy's like, no, I'm going to go out into the desert and find my brethren. And like, okay. They're like, it's really weird, but okay.
Didn't someone mention they could hear a brief whistling on the wind?
Yeah, they thought it was just the wind, but he seems to think it's them.
Hey, fun fact. The Kitanaks are from Kurdo 3. At some point in her travels, Callista Ming stops at Kurdo 3.
Ooh.
And everyone knows that I love her. Would die for her. Just felt like I wanted to point that out. But yeah. And then that's that, is it not?
Yeah, that's it. Then Sice Noodles and Max Rebo were like, okay, we'll just be a duo from now on. And Sice was like, yeah, let me negotiate the contract this time.
Not the worst story, but definitely I think we hit it. I think we were on a hot streak there for these ones. These ones were all pretty good. It kind of, the two in the middle I think were better. Goatgrass isn't a bad story. And not just because Reese dies, but
it doesn't hurt, right?
No, it doesn't. I will say I'm looking forward to Bib Fortuna's tale because I remember what happens there. The Great God Quay, that one is also hilarious. I'm very excited to read that one as well. But there are a lot more story. It feels like we've been reading this book forever, but it's because we've only gotten to, over the last month, we've only recorded 2 episodes about it.
This is only the 3rd episode now.
Yeah, so I guess that would explain why it feels like we've been doing this forever. But yeah, what are we reading for next time, Cole?
Yep, next time we're just doing 3 stories. We're doing A Day's Annoyances, Bib Fortuna's Tale, The Great God Quay, The Tale of Barada and the Weak Ways, and A Bad Feeling, The Tale of EV-99.
She's not very cool.
That's one way to put it.
I remember that much.